Secure West Virginia. So I'm going to get things started here. Okay. So we're getting kind of close to Thanksgiving time, so I want to start off with some thanks. 3 or 4 geeks in Secure West Virginia, thanks for having me out here. I want to give a special shout out to the AV crew. I'll own it. It's an explanation, but not an excuse. I was camping last week. My wife and I went to the New River Gorge, not for Bridge Days. I've done that. I've checked that off. That's a one and done. But I did not bring my AV, my HDMI adapter. So thank you. Also want to say a special shout out to my crew. I run a company called InfoSec Innovations. My folks, they're keeping the lights on while I'm out and having fun. And also thanks to y'all, because it's a gorgeous Saturday, and I don't know, you could be doing just about anything but listen to me blab, so I appreciate y'all coming. So want to give you a little bit about me. I'm the founding and managing partner of a boutique, very research-forward consultancy called InfoSec Innovations. We're doing a lot of stuff to try to shift the conversation in terms of how stuff works. If time permits, I'll point to 2 unrelated projects, what2log.com, that's what, and then the number 2log.com, and we make recommendations on what you should be logging. And then there's a GitHub project that we are in the process of porting to .NET. We originally wrote it in Node as a proof of concept, but now we're moving it to .NET, called Project Fantastic. If y'all ever heard of SolarWinds, we are building an open source alternative to it that will be secure from the ground up. So, and it will always have a free tier. So check that out. If you're at all a .NET developer, we would love some help. In my spare time, I'm a SANS instructor. Next week, in fact, I'll be in Tyson's Corner giving 504. I also teach stuff about the sim for 555, and I'm also a member of the IONS Research faculty, which is a think tank. They basically have like these Ask an Expert calls. They have us write papers and go do talks and stuff. So if you want, hit me up. I'm very passionate about InfoSec. I'm very passionate about helping the community. So about the real me, I'm a first-gen college grad, and I've got deep roots in Appalachia. My mom, well, before I get to my mom, got a staff member in West Virginia. Hey, Flynn. This talk is being recorded, so I'll be making shout-outs to the internet periodically. My mom's from Kentucky. My dad's family all comes from West Virginia. My wife's family is from West Virginia. I was having dinner with friends and family last night and the night before, so I'm all West Virginia. Even my dog is a rescue from West Virginia. And when I was when I was having this deck previewed, one of the reviewers was like, well, okay, so you're pandering. Yes, I am. And then she also said, but like, how do you prove that your dog's from West Virginia? Pepperoni rolls. That's her favorite food. And for the internet, you may have put pepperoni in some bread dough, but that's not a pepperoni roll. Come to West Virginia, try it. You'll love it. All right, these slides are going to be online. I don't have the link yet because they're not yet posted. So I'll tweet when they're available. So this talk going to be a little weird. I'm really frustrated. I don't know about y'all, but I'm kind of tired of the same old, same old. Every year we're having breaches over and over. And it's old. I'm not happy about this, but I'm open source. And I don't mean like open source code. I mean, I've been breached so many times that I've actually gone on the dark web and found literally everything about me. All my health records, all my everything, like all gone. So like, I don't even have anything in this fight anymore. And that's really weird. And I'm tired of it. And so what we're going to be talking about today is what the reality of the situation is. We're doing economic warfare online. It's not fair. Our current defensive playbooks don't fit, don't work, and haven't for a very long time. And I'm going to be explaining why that is. But we can change the game, and I don't want you to give up. So let's start diving in here. Okay. economic warfare. I know that some of you probably aren't there yet in terms of realizing that what's going on is economic warfare. Or maybe your managers or your boss or future employers aren't there yet. Here's how we need to start framing this. Economic warfare is how countries go against each other to harm the economies of others. And this definition comes from Encyclopedia Britannica Online. And it's the threat to use economic means against a country in order to weaken its economy and thereby reduce its political and military power. And I actually want to say thank you for yesterday's keynote, because I was going to be talking all about the Conti Group and how they shifted to helping Russia, but now I've been saved having to do that. And that's good. And for those of you who didn't see that, go check out the other keynote from yesterday's quality. But further defining it, it's denying the adversary access to necessary physical, financial, technological resources, or by otherwise inhibiting its ability to benefit from trade, financial, and technological exchanges with other countries. Highlighting this a bit, denying the adversary access to technological resources, inhibiting its ability to defend from technological or benefit from technological exchanges. How's that for hitting on the nose? And this is what gets me. I'm a consultant and have been for a very long time, and a lot of orgs, they're like, well, not us, we're not a target. I politely beg to differ. If you go on my LinkedIn, you will see that I used to work at OCLC. OCLC stands for Online Computer Library Center. It's a not-for-profit library exchange system. Libraries. And we were getting hit all the time. We were a stopping off point for other libraries, other institutions that had lowered their firewalls because people were using our services. And if folks, libraries make their money on late fees. If we're a target, you are too. And I'm here to tell you it's not fair. I got into computers and networking because I like telephony. In the 90s, when they were deregulating the long-distance phone stuff, I was like, man, that's cool. And I went into phones and networking, and I had a ball. And at some point, geopolitics landed on my hobby. And that was pretty weird. So what we need to start thinking about is reframing this entire conversation about who we are, what we do, and what our jobs are. Now, this is going to be a real weird concept for you, and in a moment, I'm going to have some little audience participation, okay, so get ready. But what you need to be thinking about is that this is asymmetric economic warfare that's happening. All right, this is the audience participation point. Does anybody know what the going rate is for a distributed denial of service where you're doing a volume of 1 gigabit per second for 1 hour? How much does that cost? If you go and rent a botnet or go to a dark web provider that specializes in this, how much does it cost? $200 an hour. How many other votes? Other guesses? 60. I hear 60. 200. What else? 10. What else? 5. All right. Well, $1, Bob. Okay. We're not doing the prices right. We're not doing the prices right. Okay. So the answer 10 was right a couple years ago, but inflation has hit and it's now $20 an hour. Times is tough for the attackers. $20 an hour. You see, one of the problems that we have is that the adversaries have tooling and capability that far outstrips what we think they have, and we defend against what we think they have. Little wonder they're kicking our teeth in. I don't know if you ever have investigated the usability of some of the attacker tools, but they far outstrip many of the defensive and administrative tools that we have. One of the tool, I'll just tangentially mention it in the official talk, Project Fantastic. It's a management tool that we're releasing, my company, for free. One of the reasons that we're doing that is that we want to make managing systems at least as easy as it is to use the attacker tools. If you don't believe me, go out and look at a tool called Poison Ivy. It's an old attack tool, but it keeps on getting repurposed and rebuilt. It was used to a very, very devastating attack in 2019, as late as 2019. Look at the usability of that tool. It's fall out the chair easy to use, very feature rich. So attackers, $20 an hour? What do you get for $20 an hour? You get over $60,000 of damages on average. There's attacks where that $20 will net you $2 million. It's not fair. Now, reading the room like I am right now, everybody's like, well, maybe I need to go into the offensive arts, or I need to go do something else. Okay? Well, hold up there. Okay? We need to chat a little bit about what's happening. Okay? Have you folks heard about Pandora's box? That parable opens up that box and all the evils spill out, right? And there is evil in the world. And the cyber realm is no different than the real realm in this regard. In fact, for a little honest, the internet's an open sewer, right? It just is. So, but there's evil in the world, and there are advanced actors that are trying to have their narrative of the world play out. North Korea, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff online. You talk about asymmetric warfare, they've got like 12 or 24 IPs that are public facing. They do most of their attacks from China, but they're doing their attacks, China's doing their attacks. We've got all these targets, you know, and Putin, right? Like, these folks are evil. I don't want them to win. So the whole point of this talk is for us to have a real conversation that we have to admit that we got to start shifting the narrative. And, you know, whenever I start thinking about evil, I think, okay, well, how do we counter it? And what's the deal? I love this quote. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. So, what is our industry doing? Are we doing nothing? The answer is no, we are doing some things, but we're not doing enough. And, you know, I'm sure that some of this is going to hit close to you, and I would be a hypocrite of the highest order if I didn't raise my hand and say that I fell victim to some of these things too. But there are plenty of times that we don't rise to the occasion. You know, and you might have heard this, like, but my job is so hard, I got so much to do. Okay? Right, don't take this the wrong way, but like, this might be your truth, I don't know, but this is mine. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be going home and having Thanksgiving with my family. And they're going to ask, hey, how's your job? And I'm going to say, hey, it's awesome, it's great. Because it is, but it's not perfect. You know, I'm not clicking my heels going to work, but you know, I'm first-gen college grad. Most of my family worked or retired from the steel mill in Canton. And their bad day, I can't even fathom, right? Like, my bad day, oh, the Danish is stale. You know, I mean, I work hard, but my worst day is their best day ever. And so one of the things I just don't understand is, like, IT jobs, like, you have the option, enjoy your desk job, make the best of it you can, or draw 25. We're all like, it's so tough. I mean, it's not. I politely beg to differ. And, you know, judging by the laughs, a lot of you agree, you know. Go back far enough in your family tree, you will find that your ancestors would do all kinds of unseemly things to have a climate-controlled job where they could even just sit. So, I don't know. You know, here's another thought pattern that I want to charge against. You don't have to be great at cybersecurity, you just have to outrun your peer organizations. That whole joke of, you know, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the person you're hiking with. Okay, if anybody ever says that, don't go hiking with them, they're not your friend, that's one. But two, that's not how it works, okay? There are attackers who are optimistic and will go for whoever. They exist. Those are not the attackers that should keep you up at night. The attackers that should be keeping you up at night are the ones that are gunning for you, and only you, and it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, or you and only you. And there's not a thing that you can do to dissuade them because you're the target for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe you're a business partner with the ultimate target. But they have their sights set on you. And this is something that just drives me up the wall because a lot of people say, oh, all we have to do is be slightly above average for a market vertical. Another thing that we need to push against this is every time I hear this, it's from a market vertical where that's not a good bar. Every healthcare place that I go to, they're like, well, we just have to be better than the one down there. Oh, you mean the one that got hit with ransomware? You know, like you don't want to set your aim that low. You can and should be doing better. I did what the vendor told me. I just bought security. Well, that doesn't work. But we were compliant. We were following all the security guides. Okay? We were following industry best practices, whatever that means. I mean, I got to be brutally honest, as a consultant, that is one of the hardest things to figure out when I'm setting an engagement. If you want industry best practices, we'll get you there, but it's tough. What do you mean by that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how attackers do what they do so that you can see what the table stakes actually are. All right, so here's what attackers do. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not an attacker. It's been several years since I've done this, but not too long ago, I actually infiltrated different attacker groups. I created shadow accounts and worked up a reputation. I didn't violate any laws or nothing, at least not in the regions that I was operating in. And got into these groups, got up enough cred, and I saw what they were doing. And, you know, if you read the Conti, again, thank you for not having to go over all of this. But if you read the Conti group, like, you'll see that there's this pattern. And this is what my company does, okay? Like, we're very defensive focused, but we also believe that to be a good defender, you've got to have sharp claws and teeth. And so we do pen tests and we do different assault type work. So what I'm going to do is walk you through our playbook. It's informed on what attackers do. And I can't say for authority for certain that the attackers are doing this, but if they don't, I'm embarrassed by the attacker. So here, let me walk you through how we would do an engagement. And it's going to be anticlimactic. If you've never done offensive work, you're going to be shocked at how anticlimactic it is. Step one, hey Google, tell me the open cybersecurity jobs in Charleston. Show me the open security jobs for organization, whatever, right? Whatever I'm shooting for. And I did this just last night, and I got this job posting. And here, want to highlight that, right? In the element is experience with next-gen antivirus products, CrowdStrike and SentinelOne. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my lab. Actually, let's see if this works here. We're doing all right on time. Well, I'm on my MiFi, not a. No. So what I've done is I've VPN'd into my office, and we have a very capable Proxmox lab environment. It cost us about 17 grand to put all this together. 3 nodes working in concert with a NAS. So let me zoom in here. We have 136 CPU core with that's just over a quarter terabyte of memory and got a couple terabytes of storage. With that capability, we can emulate most small office, well actually any small office, and a sizable portion of any organization. Like we can say, here's the workstations, here's the DMZ, here's this stuff. We use scripts to instantiate this all, and once you make the templates, and I'm going to be clear, that's the tricky bit, is making the template VM. Once you have those templates done, you can instantiate them, and it takes, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, and I've got a network of 50, 70 machines. And then what I do, and this is the tricky bit, then what I do is I call the different security vendors. I want to be clear, I don't lie. Man, I come close. What I do is I call the security vendor and I say, hi, my name is Mick Douglas, and I'm the owner of a security company, and I'd like to try out your product. Now, that's not a lie. We're having different definitions of what I mean by try out your product, though. And so what the salesperson does is they're like, sure, we can set you up with whatever, 90-day trial. And I'm like, sweet, let's do this. I install their agent, I install their whatever. You know, sometimes it's a cloud thing and I can't do it in my own lab. I got to use their cloud instance. And then for 90 days, I try that product. And it has a real rough day. And here's the thing that, those of you, raise your hand, those of you who want to be pen testers or are thinking about doing pen testing. All right. This is one thing that I wish somebody told me earlier in my career. There is a grind to pen testing. Folks who are pen testers or have been pen testers, am I speaking truth? It is, you are throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. And what I'm doing is in my lab, I am testing, I'm testing, and it'll be dozens, hundreds, thousands of iterations until I find out what it takes to slide below the radar. Once I have that, though, then I do it on the network that counts, the target, the victim, the client. So every defensive control can be bypassed. Not on the first time, though. And so what I do, what my crew does, is we figure out how to bypass these controls, figure out what it does, like what's needed, and then once we've got it, then we can do it for real. And, I got to be very clear about this. Like, it will take us, sometimes days or weeks to figure out how to bypass that thing. And I want to be clear, not just signature-based things, but heuristics, machine learning, AI, all of it you can bypass. You can. It's just a matter of figuring out what the magic combo is. So with that, we can get in. So I want to recap of where we're at, okay? So the attackers are well-funded. That was covered in yesterday's keynote. The other thing is they have a single focus. We as practitioners have to do our day-to-day work. We have to do all our project work, and oh yeah, we got to be watching the wall. And that's too much. But the problem is there's not enough of us. Globally, there's something like 4 million IT security practitioners across all skill levels. Did you know that there's something like 3-point-something million openings? So 4 million practitioners, 3 million openings, right? If you feel like you're overworked, you are. So don't beat yourself up. Just dust yourself up. Try another day. Here's where things kind of hop the rails, though. Okay? The attackers know your defenses. I just showed you how to do it. Hey, Google, do this. Shodan. There's plenty of ways to figure out what an org has. If you do just a little bit of recon, you're going to know. Then they figured out how to bypass that. So are attackers getting in? Yes. Yes, they are. And, nothing for nothing. I used to be a full-time pen tester. Enough time's going by, I can name names. I used to be one of the team leads at Bank of America. And I never wrote a report, hey, you kept us out. Bank of America's got money. Bank of America's got like 1,300 employees doing nothing but InfoSec. And I'm better than average, but I am not like that good. I'm just tenacious. I'm willing to pay that tedious price, pay that tedious tax to get in. If somebody like me can do it, there's other folks who can do it, I assure you. So what we need to understand is that it's not a fair fight. So shift things up. Like if you're getting your teeth kicked in over and over again when you go down a particular alleyway, Call me stupid, but at a certain point I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm going to take the longer way. I'm not going down that alleyway to get my teeth kicked in no more, right? So start shifting things up. Now, I want to be clear, you still have to do the basics and stuff like what your cyber insurance policies require of you and your different regulatory frameworks and stuff. You have to do those. But I want to be very clear, I download the NIST standards. I download the DISA STIGs. I test in my lab to figure out how to attack against those systems, okay? It's awesome if you have a lab in your home, and you should set that up. But eventually, once you start getting those, I don't want to call them easier because that's way judgy, but like the earlier attacks where you're going against a machine that doesn't have firewalls and stuff, then start hardening the machine and figure out how you can deal with that next ramp up, okay? So we still have to do those basics. And I think that what we need to have a conversation with is, and I don't want to get political because this dude is intensely political, but he did spout some crazy good quotes. You go to war with the army you have, not the army you might want or wish to have at a later time, Donald Rumsfeld. So what we need to start doing is using the army that we have, the capabilities and resources, much better. So to that end, folks, I'm going to introduce you to one of the most potent and feared weapons in the InfoSec industry. You ready? Okay. Now, earlier I asked, are there a lot of folks who are just getting started out in their journey in InfoSec, and a lot of hands went up. Those of you who have been doing InfoSec for a while, Excel, do you live in it? Like I feel I live in Excel. Okay. CSV files, yeah, it's Excel. CSV files was the comment. So Excel. So what I'm going to do is walk you through, this is another audience participation spot. I'm going to walk you through a concept called balanced scorecards. Take notes of this, ask questions. I charge a whole lot of money for this, so this is a freebie. This is how we do what we do, okay? What I'm going to do, let's do one live. Okay, good. All right. Oh, that's way too small. Let's fix that. All right. What I'm going to do is I just want you all to shout out some host-based controls. Like what is something that you would expect there to be on a host, whether it's a server, desktop, laptop, whatever. What would you have? EDR, all right, EDR. AV, okay, what else? Firewall, host firewall. Host IPS. Host intrusion prevention system, HIPS. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's kind of like a paired back EDR, I would say. What else? Log monitoring, all right, I like that. Question is group policy. Normally I would put that on like a system hardening, which I think is fair. Okay, anything else? Okay, application whitelisting, sometimes called application control. I don't get too PC on it. The reason I call it application control is I was on a panel once and somebody was talking about application whitelisting and blacklisting. Me being me, I had to ask the dumb question. I was like, well, what about the apps that are sometimes allowed? And there was this brief pause and they're like, well, it's a gray list. And then we started having this like, what shade of gray? So I just call it app control. But I'll use app whitelisting because a lot of the frameworks still call it that. Let's just for fun, let's put DLP in there. Okay. So here's like what we got potentially to work with at the host layer. So what I would do then is I would put all the network stuff, like firewall, network intrusion detection system, et cetera, right? Then in column A, what you're going to do, and this is dealer's choice. This is up to you. You can put your vuln scan findings here. You could put like pen test report findings here. If you don't yet have one of those, what you could do, I suppose, you could go to attack at MITRE and pick a particular phase that you're worried about for whatever reason. If you're worried about a particular group, what you would do is go to a group, and I'm just going to pick APT38. They do a lot of work in Russia. There's 29, which I think is North Korea. I forget. I'm not good at remembering the numbers or whatever. But like, you know who's gunning for you potentially. You can use these as like kind of a starting off point. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, oh, let's do a remote access toolkit. So commonly called a RAT, remote access toolkit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to walk through these different elements, and this is the audience participation part, okay? Would an EDR stop a remote access toolkit? Should, yeah, so let's mark it as a yes. Now, I like that should. Let's kind of take a pause here for a second. What you ideally will do is fill this out, and then you're going to double check with like a highly focused pen test or some kind of security stat QA, right? But we're just trying to see the realm of possible here. Would antivirus stop a rat? I'm going to mark maybe, because evading antivirus actually is shockingly easy. I don't have time to do a demo. Check out a tool called Defender Check. If you're not familiar with this tool, it is amazing. It's when somebody told me about this tool, I was like, of course that's how you do this. You take known malware, you give it to Defender Check. Defender Check sends it to Defender or whatever antivirus solution you got. And it says, hey, is this malware? And the AV says, yes, it is. And then what Defender Check does is says, thank you, splits the file in two and goes, is this malware? No? Okay, what about this? Is this malware? Yes. What about these two blocks? Is this malware? Nope. This is, yes. Keeps on breaking them down into smaller components until it says, this is the malware here, here, here. And those of you who are like, yeah, but my heuristics-based tools, no, because Defender Check tools, heuristics-based things are usually catching like particular API calls or arguments being sent to those APIs. Defender Check will usually get you within spitting distance. So, so we're going to mark that as a maybe. Well, so the comment is you can't use that malware anymore. Actually, what you would do is you would take that malware, modify it lightly until it's still functionally the same, but it no longer matches. And I want to be clear. Okay, we're doing fine. I can. So, not to toot my own horn, but I wrote PowerCat. I was the original author of PowerCat. And for years and years, no antivirus caught it. And then finally, one day, I had a script that was just periodically checking. And finally, one day, it was like, hey, Mick, PowerCat's malware. And I was like, thank you. Which I know that's a weird take, but I was actually happy at that point. So then it wasn't Defender Check, it was a different tool, but I did that same thing. Folks, you have to QA check your software, your security software. The vendor was detecting PowerCat. After I ran the comparable checks, what it said is it was detecting on two things. The first item was, what is the file name? Is it PowerCat.ps1? And then the other detection is, do you have a variable called $port? And so I changed it to $fort, and then I changed the file name to something else, which had an F in it as well. And there's a vendor that I will never, ever be able to get a job at if my company folds, because I wrote them an email that in tone was kind of like this. Dear sir or madam, I want to let you know that this email I'm writing you I'm only doing so with my middle fingers. And like it just excoriated them for their stuff. So test these sorts of things. All right, remote access toolkit, tangent over. Remote access toolkit, would a host firewall prevent that from working? If it's well configured, what do you think? Default, maybe. So let's mark it as a maybe. Okay. What about a host intrusion prevention system? Yeah, I would hope. Yeah. Log monitoring. Would you see a remote access toolkit? I would say yeah. You might not see the actual attack, but you would be seeing like a weird change or some expected thing. Another side tangent. Get ready for this. How many folks, raise your hand, do you have a change management process at work? Okay, keep your hand up if you like your change management process. Oh, okay, you do? Kind of? All right, we'll chat after because I need some pointers. I hate them. They're painful. Make it work. Make it worth it. If you have a change management process, look for unexpected changes. Attackers, like me, will change configurations on machines. So system hardening. Remote access toolkit, yeah, usually will. Actually, dollar for dollar, system hardening is pretty good. App control, yes. DLP, no, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to fill this through, keep on filling it out. Go to your next thing. Maybe they've got like some kind of implant. You know, you would just fill it out, yes, no, maybe so. Then, here's the tricky part, okay? Tricky. What you're going to do is something like this. And let me zoom in so you can see the magic happen. Equals count if B, what would that be? B2 to B. Oh, just do B to B? Okay. B. Oh, yeah, dollars, thank you. And then my criteria, yes. Oh, there's a circular reference, yeah. Yep. I'll fix that. That's easy. Well, we could fix that. We can fix that. Here, we'll just put that little logic right over here. Yeah, we would have to start at B. Here, let's just do B2. That, and then I'm just gonna, okay, I'm having demo jitters. I can Excel, y'all, but let's just go easy because I'm rattled. Okay, so what you would do is you would have, here's all your yeses, here's all, and then you would also count your no's. No's don't count for anything. Your yeses, I usually give like a point value of 5, and then my maybes, I give a point value of 3. Okay, let me go back to my, oops, let's go back to this. All right. So you saw how to do it. Let me ask this before I go to the next slide. Was that difficult? No. No, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not that difficult. What you're going to do, you build out your host controls or your network controls, then you fill in the attacks, then you just start, the question of grid it, a cell at a time. Does this work? Yes, no, maybe so. And eventually you start getting, like, a grid that looks something like that. By the way, the text there I deliberately graded out because the attack elements isn't the important bit. I want you to focus on this whole grid, this matrix that we're building, okay? Now, don't try to do this all in one afternoon. That's the important thing because it would be a very dull afternoon. What I do with my clients is I sit down for like a half hour, an hour, once a week, and we start building out things that look a little like this. Okay? Once you have this, then some very cool magic starts happening. All right? What I will do is, and I realize that you're not going to be able to see this, but I was kind of hinting at it with that formula, using that COUNTIF. What I'll do is I'll build a grand total score for that particular column. Again, yeses get 5, maybes get 3, and no points for no. By the way, those point values are completely arbitrary. If you want a different point value, knock yourself out. What I do then, once I have my grand totals for all the columns, is I select that row and I do a color gradient. Lowest score red, highest score green. And now it becomes very easy to start looking at your stack and saying, hey, some controls here are working great. System hardening really saved the day. EDRs did great. This went well here. Those of you who are just getting started out in your InfoSec journey, I would encourage you to try building one of these. You will find that there are certain tools or technologies that work really well. That might be something you want to focus in on. There's going to be demand for that control. If you are working at an org and you're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had Solution X or this other product or this new tech tool, you could do this analysis to see, would life be better? Is it worth it having that tool? So this is a very powerful and fun thing to do. Well, helpful. I wouldn't say fun. I'd be lying. There's a reward there, but it's not camping or hiking. But here's where things also get very, very interesting, though. You can start seeing that some controls aren't doing well. Surprise, surprise, antivirus is not going to save the day. Now, you need to have antivirus. It's kind of like that clown at the amusement park. You got to be this high to ride the ride. But it's not going to stop most advanced attackers. But start trying to find out what controls you have that aren't working well. If you really want to curry management's favor, or if you're in management, pay attention to this next little pro tip. What I love to do is I will do this analysis for my clients, and then when license renewal comes up with that particular vendor, I say, hey, just picking on antivirus because I've been talking about it. Hey, antivirus vendor, we are spending 15% of our licensing across our entire license costs on you, and you're stopping across this group that we did the analysis on. You stopped 5%. How about we get a discount? And I know this sounds really bonkers, but my company has had many instances where we saved the organization our entire consulting fee by doing this because, oh, we didn't realize we weren't helping you out that much. Let's work, okay? But this is the bit that not many people are talking about. Remember column A, the stuff that you're worried about, the attacks, whether it's MITRE attack, vulnerability scan findings, pen test findings. Start looking for things on the horizontal. You will see that there are certain attacks where they're kill shots. You know, there's only one or none. Those are the things that you need to be careful of. And what you will find, unfortunately, when you first do this, and this is a bit of a warning, when you first do this type of analysis, you are going to see that you have an awful lot of these. Because we talk a lot about security in depth, but we don't actually really double check to make sure that we have security in depth. And I think that we need to start doing something about that as an industry. So start considering this. Now, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter. I'm at BetterSafetyNet. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that for quite a while now I've been ranting about a thing called IMA. It's not a framework, it's just a thought pattern. The whole idea behind IMA is that you can very quickly and rapidly fix your organization's security posture. And over the next couple months and stuff, I'm going to be releasing more and more scripts that help with IMA. The idea is isolate your systems. You can't attack what you can't reach. Firewalls work great. Network microsegmentation is awesome. Use it. Also, side rant, for your firewalls, make sure you have egress controls. There have been many times I've been doing pen tests where I am so proud of the attack. It is such a honey. It works so good. deploy it and it can't phone home. Well, that's rough. Like, what do I do? A whole lot of nothing. I go back to the drawing board. If you stop the malware from being able to phone home, it's not ideal that it landed, but if it can't activate, I'll take that. That's a win. It's not a perfect, like, flawless win, but that's a good win. Start minimizing. I don't get why people are, I mean, I understand why we use defaults. I understand why we use base builds. I understand why we pull down containers from, like, you know, Docker, like, defaults and stuff. But minimize, please minimize. You can't attack what's not there. The other thing is you're costing the org a lot of money if you have extra cruft. And also, that's a lot of patching. Like, if it's not there, you don't even have to patch. So minimize, use those hardening scripts, use those templates. If you're just getting started on this journey, check out the Center for Internet Security benchmarks is what they call them. The Center for Internet Security benchmarks. Caution, I'm very passionate about InfoSec. They will cure insomnia, okay? And the folks that are chuckling, they've read the benchmarks, they can vouch. Monitor. Everything in your network is a sensor. Everything can be bypassed, but those bypasses are strange. One of my favorite clients that I hate pen testing, they have an incredible app locker policy. And their app locker policy is pretty good. Now, some of you might be, but I can bypass app locker. Yeah, you can. But you know what they do that makes it really uncool? Is they have an alert when somebody issues a command that says, hey, is app locker running? That's an alert. Because Bob in HR doesn't even know what an app locker is. Nobody asks that. The only time that you get a false positive on that is when an auditor comes through. And then the other thing, and this is a super high priority alert, is, hey, app locker, give me your configuration. Nobody does that except attackers or auditors. Make that be your alert. Look for enumeration. Look for those sorts of things. Evasion is strange. Don't buy the hype from the vendors. They say, oh, they were doing advanced beaconing. You couldn't see it. Yeah, you can. It looks bizarre. Start monitoring for that. Start doing active defense. Shout out to a talk I gave in 2019 at Wild West Hackin' Fest, which oddly was the last conference before this one that I participated in. It's called Web Apps Dripping with Honey. And I give you an hour of here's how you make life miserable for the attacker because attackers have to do certain things. Anticipate that. You're worried about financial fraud? Cool. Create a table called CC_info, populate it with fake credit card data, and just sit back and watch who's accessing that table. Nobody will except the attackers. And if I'm a pen tester, I have to look at that. So start putting yourself in the shoes of the attackers and, you know, make honey documents, make honey services, make honey functions, honey user accounts. I don't know if you're following Sub T on Twitter, but not too long ago he released a thing. How many folks do work with AWS? Okay. Here's this nightmare scenario tool that he made. It's a fake AWS credential creator. So you got those AWS keys that are used for AWS CLI or any sort of automation tool. He has a tool that generates over 2,000 fake AWS certs. Now you as the dev and the user, you don't care because you're using the right certs. You know where they are. As an attacker, oh no, I got to start dialing for dollars. And then all you have to do is start looking for these particular honey certs being used or attempt to be logged in your AWS instance. If InfoSec is too hard, you're doing it wrong. Okay? Sub T. SUBTEE. So, I don't know, I'm kind of running low on time. I wanted to get back to Pandora's box. if you remember the parable of Pandora's box, all the evil spilled out of the box. But at the bottom of the box, hope. All right? Over and over again in this talk, I said it's not fair. And I'd be lying to you if I said anything but that. It's not fair. Your attacker is better financed than you. They just are. And that was true when I worked at the bank. So if they're out financing us when we're at the bank, you're not going to win that fight. So don't play that game. Shift it. It's your house. Start listening for things that are weird. If some bump in the night happens at dark 30, you're going to have that mental checklist of, oh, well, I could run and hide, or I got these weapons available, or I can improvise this into a weapon. It's your home. Start figuring out how you can build up your environment. Treat it as such. Learn how the attackers work. Understand that no matter how advanced they are, they have to do certain things. They have to get that data. They have to start finding that data. Look for those attacker patterns. Bob in HR is not going to the R&D server. I mean, Bob's computer might be, but it ain't Bob, right? Bob's just a puppet that somebody's controlling at that point. So I want you to walk away with this with hope. You can fight, and you can win. You're not going to win every battle, but you can win this war, and we have to. Because going back a bunch of slides, I don't want Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, or Vladimir Putin deciding what our future will be. And yeah, that's a heavy, heavy thing. And there's plenty of days where I get crushed under that thought, and cards completely face up. Before I came to this conference, my wife and I went camping in New River Gorge to just let me excise that demons, because I got off in an engagement where we got our teeth kicked in and curb stomped. You're not going to win all the ones. But there's a really cool Japanese saying. I don't speak Japanese, but I love this saying. Fall 7 times, stand 8. You folks have given me hope. You're here on a gorgeous Saturday. You were engaged in the audience participation stuff. You could have just sat back and been like, whatever. So you're clearly passionate. You got stuff that makes you different. Go do it. We're in this fight together. Let's go win, all right? So thank you. Thanks.
This talk was a part of our 2022 Secure West Virginia Lucky 13 conference. If you would like more information about this talk or our speaker, check the description below. And if you enjoyed the content, consider liking and sharing this video. For more information on Secure West Virginia, or you want to stay updated with the latest upcoming events, follow us on Twitter at SecureWVCon or visit our website securewv.org. We would also like to thank our 2022 sponsors for being a huge part of Lucky 13's success.